There's
All right. Welcome, everybody. Today we have with us Dr. Kaarin Goncz. Is that how you say your last name? Did I say it
Good
right?
job. Yeah, you did great.
Oh, very good. Kaarin is Dr. Goncz is a professor here at New Mexico Tech in the biology department. And we have her here with us today because she has an interest in education above and beyond that of a regular professor. If I recall, she runs the labs in the biology department. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That was the job I was hired to do.
Okay, very good. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. I'm gonna turn 57 this year. So it's been a long, strange journey, so to speak, So that's one of the things that I start off with. People say, you know, a lot of things, and I'm like, well, I'm old, and you can gather a lot of experiences over your lifetime. So, I had a fairly traditional start, undergraduate and graduate school, got my PhD in biophysics at Berkeley. And then that took me into research, which I tried to do for a while, but was very interested in science outreach activities, which I got interested in as an undergraduate, actually. And tried research, failed at research, wasn't able to successfully get a grant, realized it wasn't for me. So went and got my teaching license when I was 40. So, go back to school, get your teaching license. And I taught high school science for a few years. And then I got a job as what's called an outreach education coordinator for an engineering research center at Colorado State University, which is easier to say with a lot of acronyms. But I had that job for 8 years, and that involved doing science outreach into the community. And after that, I met up with my current partner, and we tried our hand at a business, and that failed. And so then we ended up at New Mexico Tech, and I got a job here as the manager for the biology department.
Very good.
Good story.
You want to jump in, Sophie, with the next question?
Yeah. So what kind of brought about your interest in education?
Well, very well, I mean, you're educated kind of all of your life. And especially if you get into academics, you're always immersed in education. But what interested me was how do you make it accessible to everybody? How do you help everybody learn? Because as you go through classes, you see people doing really well or not doing so well. And why are some people doing well and why are some people not doing so well? So more trying to learn how to learn is my interest in education. And I was not always a good student. So wanting to improve myself was part of that.
Ooh.
What does education mean to you?
So education for me just continues to be able to learn and to have curiosity and to keep your mind open to experiences, new experiences. Exposure is huge. How do you know what you don't know unless you're able to learn about all these different topics? Helps you make choices, helps you stay up to date, helps you stay healthy. All of those things that enrich your life is what education is.
I'm wondering if you can tell us what you think after experiencing the mill, as many of us have. What do you feel are the biggest strengths and weaknesses of the American education system as a whole are? You've been in different levels of it. You've experienced it yourself as well as helped others. What are the biggest strengths and weaknesses?
So the biggest strengths in the United States are for sure the diversity of educational choices that you can have. They may not always be accessible to you, but there are a wide range of choices. And for a long time, when you were a teacher, your classroom, you were able to do what you wanted to do and I say that loosely, in your classroom. It was your domain, what you felt was important to teach at that grade level. You knew your students. Colleges, there's public, private, religious, not, there's a whole range of experiences that you can have. Workforce, 2-year colleges, technical schools, you name it. So that's the biggest strength I see. The biggest weakness is that everyone's trying to standardize that now. So everyone is trying to narrow that diversity down into, and not that the standards, let's say the standards that are in K through 12 are a bad thing, but teaching to the standards, teaching to tests, having everything uniform, I think is a weakness.
Absolutely agree with that. Let's see, if you could, what reforms would you like to see implemented in the education system?
I would like to see less students in the classroom. That's
Okay.
the biggest thing. More freedom for educators to be able to dictate what's going on in their classes. There's standards, that's fine, but how they present those standards. I'd like to see free education that we paid for up at least through 2 years. Say community college would be fantastic.
Oh,
Do you think the current education system adequately prepares students to go into the workforce?
No.
No.
sorry.
Yep.
Good,
We know how.
So I can hear you there. So what should the future of education be if it doesn't adequately prepare us for the workforce, let's say, or, it has the need, to deal not only with standardization, but to also become diverse. How do you see it?
That's a hard one to answer. We don't know what the workforce is going to be. I mean, I had no idea that, let's say, video games was going to be a career choice when I was going to college. So you don't know necessarily how to prepare people for the workforce. You can give them skills. Things that people keep talking about, basic skills like how to fill out your taxes, how to do those basic life skills. Those still aren't in the school systems. Those would be really good. How to present yourself, how to work in an environment. I think that school and college just needs to recognize that it's not preparing you for the workforce per se. It's giving you a bunch of skills that's going to help you. But the workforce is a moving target. So, they're going to train you to some extent, depending on where you get hired. They're going to give you those skills. So just accepting that, then you're not trying to do something that's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And by education, we're talking broad. I mean, technical schools and community colleges and certificate programs and things like that, for sure. There are things that are specifically trying to train you, like a nursing program is for sure trying to train you. And I don't have any experience with that. So I'm just speaking to that pretty much academic pathway.
Yeah.
Speaking of the future, what role do you see technology playing in the future of education?
Yeah, that's a rough one. Because with technology, you need access to technology, and that's great, but we don't have internet. So, we don't have reliable internet. So it's fantastic that there are some of these things online, but they're only helping people that, one, have access to internet, and two, are able to navigate the internet. I mean, there's a lot of information out there, but there's a lot of misinformation. So how do you teach people to use the technology?
Mm-hmm.
You still need to monitor that. So I think it has power, but it needs the same skills and it needs the same attention to detail that you do in the classroom, and access to it. The online stuff is great for folks. I think it fills in a gap, but but again, it doesn't help with that personal communication, and it doesn't help you if you don't know how to use it. My mom quit her job essentially because she doesn't know how to use a computer. And so there are some folks it's not natural for.
I know that we try to use technology to improve education and try to level the playing field. And yet you're exactly right, whether it depends on the venue, we have to try to do things that apply, and what we can do. But I'm just wondering, when I think about that, do you have any ideas on how to literally bring up others so that even though it's not necessarily natural, they might be able to acquire certain types of skills?
Well, I think they have to, right? I mean, you can't hide in the past forever. I finally got myself a smartphone, whatever, 5 years ago. I was like, okay, I got to give up the BlackBerry. I just do. But it's not going to take any less people power than it is without technology. It takes the same workforce.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just say that technology is going to do the job.
Right.
It just doesn't, and it leaves a whole bunch of people in the lurch. So I think I can't just rely on it.
Yeah, let's see. And one of the things you touched on earlier was the concept of diversity, which I absolutely agree is one of the strengths, but there are definitely still areas that we are lacking in. What strategies do you think that could be implemented in the current education system to make it more inclusive and accessible to everyone?
So taking into account parents, caregivers' schedules. I mean, the people who are lacking the most access to education come from situations where there's, it's challenging for them to even get a living. So, things like setting up a 4-day school schedule sounds good, but then what do you do with kids on Fridays? So accommodating for that situation, I think is you just have to, that's the way that it's going to allow the folks who currently don't have as much access as they want into the pipeline, so that they can get where they need to go.
What are some of the biggest barriers to education right now?
Access. access and misinformation. I mean, we've watched it with the COVID. How many people are afraid about, vaccinations? How much information is on the internet? I mean, you can learn everything that you need to learn about, why vaccinations are safe, yet people will pick and choose what they're going to listen to, what they're going to go from. So the technology hasn't helped. The information is out there. So access and guide and education about what information to know.
Mm-hmm.
It's still the same stuff. The technology doesn't change the fact that you still need to teach people how to use things.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
This is actually a great segue into the next question, which is how in what ways do you think the pandemic is going to shape our education system going forward?
I don't know. I mean, all the online stuff has helped a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That for sure changed the face of people just being able to do this, right? This will become the new norm, and it does make some things a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah.
So the push to have to get online and to learn how to use technology, the pandemic helped that. So I think that was a really good thing.
Would you perhaps see that? I think there was a change in teaching styles that really hit us as technology came in. Libraries were big on that, but that whole sense of teaching rather than induction to be more of a cooperative and interactive type of experience, I think I experienced my second go around in school. over against the first. I'm just wondering if that might also assist with this whole pandemic situation, is trying to figure out how to get past just inductive, which I think is a big issue. And I'm not sure where you are, because you have to have lots of standards and particulars that you have to teach. And of course you have to, have an inductive system at places. I guess what I want to say is that I'm commiserating with you, because this is a tough question. So thank you for trying to get a shot at it. You have other thoughts before we go on? I'm just.
Well, I just think that the technology, yeah, I think it gave us a chance to figure out the things that worked and didn't work. That's another, spin on it. And hopefully we can learn from that and drop the stuff that didn't work and keep the stuff that did work, and not keep relying on the things that we had to do. That would, it was a trial run, and some things really came out on top. But again, the people who suffered were the people who didn't have access to technology. So they're left behind. They're 2 years behind, a year and a half behind some of these kids.
Yeah.
And we see it in the classroom now. They've forgotten some basic skills. So, that stuff didn't work. The not hands-on stuff didn't work.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Yeah.
Excuse me. How has being a woman affected your experiences studying STEM subjects in college?
When I went to college in STEM, I was a minority, female. So it helped me understand what being a minority was about. And not seeing role models, not having a group that I felt like I fit in, always feeling that way. It has changed, not necessarily in STEM, but it's getting better. I mean, there was a report out that 60% of the college population at the moment is female. So, that's going to change. I also appreciate a whole lot about trying to do the work-life balance. I didn't have kids when I went to college. There was kind of this push where women were, trying to get out into the workforce, and trying to balance both of them was challenging. So I chose not to have kids. So it certainly affected my long life choices. For better, for worse, who knows?
What advice can you offer women who are looking to go into STEM fields based on, kind of your experiences and what you've learned from everything?
Yeah, find a group first. Find people that you can talk to, even if the group involves males. All right, I'm not saying go find a female group. I'm just find a group, because women are very group oriented, and we like to discuss, and we're a little bit more listening to other people's ideas and need to bounce things off of them. And it's okay to recognize that. Some guys like that too, but in general, it's women like a group. And also be okay with your voice, be okay with the fact that your thoughts and your take on science is not the way that science has been done for 2,000 years, because we've just heard a white male version of science. And it's usually the person who's thinking differently that comes up with the solution.
Sure.
So trying to just accept that just because you see a pattern in something that no one else recognizes, it's still valid. I remember working at University of Vermont when I was there, and one of the PIs who was female used to wear leather pants to work all the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, how can she get away with that? And then, later on, I was like, wow, she was just being herself. She may have dressed that way a little bit more just so that she could remember who she was and not fit in with what the stereotype looked like. And that provided her some strength So yeah, find your strength and have confidence in it, which is really hard, which is why you need the group.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's great advice. Thank you.
What about for students who struggle in college? We've talked about different struggles of different groups, but you got any tips for that? I mean, we try to find tips all the time and help them. Trust me.
Folks that are struggling with groups.
Yeah, struggling in college for any reason, I think. It just, I think it's just academic and it's personal and it's a discovery. It's all those things. Do you have any tips for folks, for students?
Again, I would help them find a group.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be an academic group. We have a little hiking group that's going at the moment, and something, actually something non-academic, something that's hobby related or something else, somewhere where you feel like you have a connection to whatever it is. Cohorts work, they really do. And I know that Tech tried that for a while, and they had, I forgot what they called them, but those things have shown to work in other universities and colleges.
What, in your opinion, is the most important thing students can do to ensure their success in college? It kind of bounces off the same idea. Find a group.
Yeah, find a group. And find someone to at least find someone to talk to. A professor. You got to reach out somehow and realize that you can't solve all of this on your own. So just that step towards making a connection is absolutely huge to start with, because you fall through the cracks if you don't have some sort of mesh work going on. And asking for help is the first step. I mean, it's amazing what questions students will eventually get to when they start feeling comfortable. They're going to ask you the question that they think they're supposed to ask you first. And then eventually 10 questions down the road, they're going to get to the question that they really want, which is they just didn't understand something simple. And once you can get past that, then they feel a little bit more open to it. But in my experience, no student feels like they belong. They're faking it, kind of, or they just have this perception. Everyone has this perception that there's a group out there, but there's no real group out there. No one really feels like they're connected. You have moments of connectedness. So helping students succeed, they just need to realize that they're not alone. But a lot of students feel like they're supposed to succeed by themselves, because if they don't, they're not an adult.
I feel like you're touching a little bit upon imposter syndrome.
Yeah, imposter syndrome for sure. Women for sure feel that, but anybody who feels that they feel outside the group can feel that way too. And I think it's just key to realize that you're not going to fit in all the time, but sometimes you will. And if you can just hang on to that one time that you felt like you found your groove, then you can get through the other moments where it's not quite your thing, but that's okay.
Yeah. Let's see. What helped you succeed academically when you were, doing your undergraduate studies?
I found a group.
Study group now. Okay.
I found a study group, and we got through. Because I had transferred to Berkeley. I came from the University of Virginia. I transferred to Berkeley, and for some reason, me and 4 other kids clicked. And there was another female, but she was 40 at the time, which I thought was so old, right? And then there were 2 guys, and we studied together, and we did other things together too. But yeah, that was it. And honestly, this is what I tell students also. It's not the college that's high level. It's the students that you're competing with, or that you find that will help you hone your skills that makes the college. So, you know, they will bring you up. You'll learn more together. Actually, a bunch of students asked me this year, they're like, you know, they said, we want to ask a professor to give us more homework because, you know, we feel like we're not doing well enough. And I said, this is college, you know, they're not going to give you more homework. You need to get together as a group and help yourselves learn and study, because that will give you life skills to learn on your own. You have to practice that. So learning how to learn, learning how to ask for help, learning how to ask questions, not being afraid to ask a stupid question is key. And I try to say this to students, you know, you can ask the stupid question or you can remain stupid.
That's a
I
good
like
one.
that. Yeah.
That's a good one.
So for success, that helped when you were in undergraduate studies. How about as you shifted? I mean, we all, if we've been in graduate school, we shift. And so we're dealing with things like thesis, dissertation. So some success strategies maybe you may have used while you were writing your thesis or dissertation or in that process.
Yeah, work-life balance. You know, find exercise, taking time off, doing something else for sure. And going to conferences. I had the advantage of being able to go, I was at a center that was pretty well funded. So we got to go to some conferences and some international conferences. And wow, does that give you perspective and seeing what other people in the field are doing and things like that. So both, you know, reaching out professionally and personally, you know, expanding your horizons. So I love that tech has, you know, the research forum in the spring and encourages people to go to conferences and has some funding for that, because yeah, that just helps you realize there's a world out there and that you fit in.
Yeah, that's really important. Yeah. What do you think, like, what do you see as the main differences between, you know, your undergraduate studies and your graduate studies? What are kind of the things that really distinguish the two of them, and what are things that students need to kind of know about that, the difference between those?
Yeah, undergraduate, you are still doing assignments from your teacher. Graduate studies, you become their peer, and that's what you're working towards. You're becoming one. You know, I am now. I tell the graduate students all the time. You know, people go back and forth about calling me Dr. Goncz or Kaarin, right? And it's sort of this line between whether or not you're a peer or whether or not you're my student. And grad students, I encourage them to call me by my first name because we are colleagues. So I respect your opinion as much as, you know, as I'm contributing. And that's the biggest step. You're one of the clique now, kind of thing. You know, I mean, it is a club. Grad school is for sure, or, you know, degrees are for sure a club kind of thing. But you're in charge of yourself, and a lot of them will be like, you know, my mentor hasn't given me what I'm supposed to work on. I don't know what my research is, and it's like, well, that's your job. You know, that's your responsibility at this point. What do you think? What do you think? And that's the biggest shift, is you're in charge of the thinking now.
This is actually a great segue into the next question, which is, what advice do you have for students who are seeking to become researchers?
Becoming researchers? Yeah, you got to try it. See if you like it.
Yeah.
And you got to be okay with doing the experiment again. Like, that's where I knew I failed. I was like, I'm not going to, I don't want to do that again. And I also don't like not knowing things. I like knowing things. And in research, you don't know stuff. You're trying to figure that out. So, you know, if you're okay with doing, if your experiment, the ones I know who are going to succeed are the ones who just come to me and like, oh man, I messed up. I left my stuff out. Oh, well, I guess I'm going to do it again. I'm like, okay, you're going to be okay. You know?
Yeah.
So research is really that research.
It's a great way to look at it.
Research.
Yeah, yeah, I like that too. You got a lot of those good ones.
I'm old, been around the block.
So you mentioned hiking. Well, what else do you do for fun? Do you have any hobbies, interests, or side gigs? Side
Like-
gigs?
Oh,
like-
sidekicks. Yeah, I do tarot readings on the side. Yeah. I exercise a lot. I hike a lot. I did M Mountain this year. That I know this is one of your questions. That's the thing I'm most proud of this year is we had a group together and we climbed the mountain, and I was so proud of that.
That's awesome.
I swim and I read a lot, and I take care of my mom now. So that's become a hobby because I have to approach it that way
Mhm.
on some level. So
Yeah.
Mm.
Last question then. Tell us one thing about yourself that we might not know.
I grew up in Australia.
Oh, really? Where in
Yeah.
Australia?
Yeah. Well, I went to 5th grade in Australia. So I should have started that with, I repeated 5th grade. Because when I came to the United States, the school system is different. So, we came in the middle of the school year in Australia. So I actually ended up repeating 5th grade, half of 5th grade, which was annoying. Because the Australian school system was a lot better than the American school system. So it was really, I got straight A's my first year, and which that really propelled me into academics, but it's because I knew everything. So, and I also learned, in the Australian system, with where you wore a uniform and how there was, that was very interesting coming from a uniform to a non-uniform. Because when you came to the States, I didn't know what was popular, what clothes were popular, that kind of thing. So the uniform was a really good common denominator for students. So I still don't know how to dress, but whatever.
Yeah. Going off the book a little bit, would you advocate for uniforms then across schooling?
I would. I think you can still dress up and dress down those clothes. There's still a class situation, but it does take out a little bit of what are you supposed to wear? And it takes out some of that thought process of it.
Yeah.
Now, when I went to school, we had to wear skirts, and a group of us tried wearing pants, and that got ixnayed, but that was 1974. So I think that's changed. Uniforms are not, they're a little bit more accessible. So yeah, I would.
Interesting. Yeah. Suraj, Dr. Cox, do you have any more questions?
I was just thinking of when I was in Scotland, and I had boys that were in uniforms as well. So I think that helped them in some ways. That made them part of that group. It's kind of a cohortish type of thing. But yeah, I get you there. So no, I don't have further questions from what we asked. I'm just really thankful that Kaarin's been with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been really great. It's been a real pleasure to listen to you talk about this and hear all about your experiences and everything. Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's people like you that make it worthwhile. And Suraj and I have a long history, actually, and he's made me a better educator too, because he spoke up and questioned. I remember the first time I met him, he spoke up with the question, and it's like, yep. I learn as much from the students as they learn from me, I hope. So
Yeah, that's so
Okay.
great to hear.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the professor that you need to lean on. I remember wandering into your office at some point during my undergrad a couple times, just talking to you about life. So I do appreciate that, and I definitely appreciate your time and you taking the time to answer our questions.
welcome. Okay. Thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks so
Have a
much.
great day.
Okay. See ya.
Bye.